Now, it's not a title many towns would want to be associated with, the meth capital of Australia. 3 years ago, Murray Bridge in South Australia was given that dubious title. Police launched a massive operation to raid more than 100 homes in 2018, and they were shocked by how many people were taking and selling the drug. David Penberthy, a journalist with the Australian newspaper, went beyond the headlines and explored what's next for the town. And he joins me now. David, great to see you. This was a really sobering read. I've got to say, what did this investigation find? Was it worse than expected?
Well, I think the best thing that the investigation found, Laura, is that Murray Bridge isn't a town that was going to take being bestowed with that unpleasant title lying down. And frankly, I've got to say that, and this is probably a bit of self-criticism for the media, the extent to which the term meth capital of Australia gets bandied about has got about as much meaning as those signs you see in pretty much every country town saying Australia's best pie outside the local bakery. There are probably more than a dozen towns in Australia that at different times have earned the unpleasant sobriquet meth capital of Australia. There's been a lot of talk about Mildura. There's been talk about Shepparton, the New South Wales Central Coast, Logan in Queensland, Dubbo in regional New South Wales. Here in South Australia, Mount Gambier in the southeast, but also specifically Murray Bridge 3 years ago was in the frame. And the thing that drove a lot of the attention back then was a really shocking murder where a mother of three was bashed to death by a man who was part of this subculture that exists in that town where methamphetamine undeniably has really wreaked havoc on the manner in which people behave. But, you know, these headlines come and go. And I think that the sad thing is you almost see like a type of FIFO journalism where people rock in, declare that the place is a hellhole and then move on again. So the reason that I wanted to go there was to see 3 years on how the town had reacted. Now, everybody I spoke to was very realistic and honest. The local police even said, and the mayor said, look, we're not claiming victory by any stretch. There's still a big problem here. But the problem is a lot more nuanced than is often presented. And one of the really hopeful things I think that's happening in Murray Bridge is it's one of 10 predominantly regional towns. Indeed, I think Marrickville in Western Sydney is the only city-based area that's part of this scheme. But they've set up this thing called Planet Youth, which is based on this Icelandic model where rather than imposing a set of rules and strictures from on high, you get people who are experts from Headspace, the Alcohol and Drug Foundation, who are already in these communities, who then hook up with locals and they say, all right, we've got a few problems here. Let's identify what they are. And the starting point in Murray Bridge was to do like this massive survey of all of the year 10 students in town and ask them a lot of questions about their own habits and behaviour. But a lot of it is actually quite commendably old-fashioned. It goes to things like parental supervision. Do your parents know who your friends are? Do your parents know who your friends' parents are? What type of sporting activities do you do? So they tried to get a sort of holistic picture of how everybody lives and behaves. And from that, they're basically looking at trying to eliminate what in a lot of cases is a simple question of boredom, which sees young people sort of become at risk of drifting into this kind of stuff that turns a lot of these towns into, places where dysfunctional behaviour can proliferate.